Login Exiles! PoE2's big druid update is finally here. My god, I've waited over a year for this. Ever since ExileCon, where we were begging and pleading, it's like, please let us go and play druid. They had it in the office, and they were like, we can't, man, we can't. It's not ready yet. There's lots of work to be done, but all right, now it's finally here. And I was excited for this, because the PoE2... if you're into MMOs in general, like certainly if you play like a bit of WoW and a bit of FF14, or you play some other large game that has regular updates, you will be fully aware of PoE syndrome. I have literally spoke to Chris Wilson about this, former head of GGG. I've blasted him for this. It's like, are you guys doing this on purpose? Nearly every PoE league begins at a major inconvenience point if you're playing any other game as a more primary game. Not if like PoE is your main game, obviously, but if you're doing anything else, it always lands at just a time when people are doing other things. It always meant I couldn't invest a couple of weeks into a league. It's like to get going and go and do some stuff. And I've had plans to do Ubers for a while and all this kind of stuff. And it really got on my nerves because I love the game. I really love the game. But I have a certain audience and I have a certain amount of time. And so this time I was like, we're doing it. We're doing it with the Druid. I've been looking forward to this for ages. We're jumping in. Yes, FF14 has got its patch today as I'm recording this. The new raid is out. The new story is out. Again, it just drops at the wrong time. There's more stuff coming towards the end of the year, but screw it. I'm doing it. We're going to jump into FF, and then I'm coming back to PoE. I'm getting it done. So, how's it been? I decided way before the patch came out, once we saw like the reveal of it, I was going to play the werewolf. It looked the more melee heavy, it looked the faster of the specs, kind of fits more with my theme. The bear looks a little slow in all gameplay that I saw, and the wyvern looked kind of like a caster mix, which is generally not my bag. So I was like, I want to be the werewolf, like running around with a big pack of wolves and shredding things to pieces. That is my jam, so I'm going there. Obviously, it was difficult to get a good build source, you know, get some ideas going. I'm not familiar enough with the game to, like, build a really solid setup myself yet. And so I was looking around, but there wasn't much out there, some guesses. So a lot of people playing not druid, but doing druid stuff, you know, doing, like, monk werewolves and things. But I was like, I want to play the druid. I want to go with what they've designed, and that way I can give better feedback and stuff like that. So I was looking at it. So when the launch finally came out, I couldn't be there. I couldn't be there for the actual launch. I was doing something very cool, which I think is revealed tomorrow. The NDA on that is going to lift soon. I was doing something really cool. So Saturday, Sunday, I have family, so it was difficult. So I really got to jump in yesterday, Monday, to actually play a lot. I did touch it at the weekend. The start, I think, for the first 3 levels, and some people have had a different experience with this, and it could be literally the monsters you run into in the very first map. I died twice in the first map, and I was like, that's a bit weird. And I'm not talking to, like, the boss. Just the trash enemies, like, melted me. I was, like, dodging all over the place. I was like, what is happening here? That's really odd, because it's not like I have choices at this point, right? I have what you gave me. But that cleared up once I got, like, a piece of armor. And it was like, oh, okay, now we're fine. Now we're good. But I did have, it's a very staggered start. You want to be zooming through the first few levels. If you're going full werewolf and not starting as bear, which I think they thought most people would just go bear at the start, and bear's more fleshed out. But the wolf is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. You just need to be ready for that early stage. And I know other people didn't run into that issue at all. But the wolf unlocks its wolf skills every few levels, and it's not until you get to like level, I don't know, 20, something like that, that you kind of have the kit to get going, namely spawning the actual minion wolves. That doesn't come until you get Pounce, and then that's a game changer. Once you get that, you're like, oh, now everything is a lot easier, despite the fact that the minions just die really quickly, but you can sort of chain spawn them on cooldown and just keep spawning more and more wolves, and they certainly help out massively. But then you realize that the way that mechanic works is that you need to be killing enemies to spawn the wolves, and then you get to a boss which kills all your wolves in like one hit. You can't spawn any, so that entire mechanic dies, and it's not until later on when you get shred or cross slash that you can actually start spawning wolves in fights. And then it starts to pick up again, because that's more of the toolkit making a lot of sense. It's also the big combo finishers. As it is right now, I've basically finished the campaign. I've got one more interlude to do. zipped through it yesterday to start getting into maps and things like that. So I've got about maybe an hour left before the campaign's finished, the final interlude. How has it been? Really good. So fun. I loved how quick it got. I loved how fast it got. I love how devastating it got. I've been on the fence a little bit about the most controversial thing in PoE 2, which is the really heavy combo style of gameplay. Some people really want one button go, destroy everything, or 2 buttons max, you know, that kind of thing. And the rest of your buttons are like defensives, you know, your molten shells or your movement spells, something like that. Whereas PoE 2 leaned more into combo heavy gameplay. And the werewolf is a great example of that, because its ultra combos are pretty require quite some setup to do. However, they are extraordinarily satisfying. There's no getting away from that. They are massively satisfying. When you get it right, it really works. Now, coming from my WoW background, where I've played every class and spec in that game for, you know, 20 years, that rotational setup style is very second nature to me. Like, that is so smooth and easy for me to pull off compared to, like, trying to learn how to do combos, that I very much enjoy it. Like, the werewolf for me, for you WoW guys out there, reminds me of a classic mage setup, like Arcane or Fire, where you have like 3 or 4 steps and some preparation. Then you unleash this phenomenal, just soul-destroying amount of damage into an enemy. And it's, when you pull it off, you're like, that sweet, sweet combustion. Certainly looking into going, like, making sure certain trinkets are procced, making sure you've got other procs banked, making sure your position is good, making sure the timing is good so you're going to be able to deliver this big blow without being forced to move or something along those lines, and then pulling it all off. And the werewolf does that exact thing. So the werewolf bases itself on freezing the enemy, and then in that freeze window, you absolutely destroy. And I got to mess around a little bit with the combos there. So I would take an enemy to near freeze, so it's primed to freeze. Then what I would do would activate my DPS cooldown, so that'd be like Savage Fury, which gives me massive more physical damage. Then I would do something like Lunar Blessing, which causes massive more cold damage and also causes like lasers to shoot out the sky. Then I would use my Howl, which would then actually prime the enemy and give me a huge buff. And then when it's frozen, unleash a ton of shreds, which have combos and crescendos, which allow double things and shatter ice shards off of the enemy while it's frozen. So you're chipping away the ice, which they can then explode, and then finishing just as the freeze is finishing with a cold slash, a cross slash finisher, which has things like execute on it and also drags all those ice shards in for an explosion while it's debuffed with the freeze still, ideally, which gives bonus damage. And then you'll just see like half the boss's health just eradicate and disappear. And it's just like, and you know, the cool thing about it is, you know, when you set up a really good one, you know, when it's there, you're like, oh, this is going to be huge. And then you just go boom, and it just detonates and rocks it. And then you're looking to maneuver and set up and do things again. Really, really fun. Love the gameplay. Having a blast with it. Can't wait to see where this build goes. I've tried a number of different builds. I'm kind of happy with the one I've got now, and then we'll see how it layers up as, you know, we start stacking more stuff on top of it. Things I don't like in PoE 2. Let's talk about PoE 2 in general a little bit. That I still disagree with. So I've spoke to Jonathan face-to-face and Mark and Chris many times. I'm fortunate enough to have done that and had long discussions about design and stuff. They're really into it. Like, that's one of the things I came back from the first time I met them, is these guys are genuine game nerds. They're absolute super game nerds who made something extraordinarily popular and successful. And they are ultra passionate. I think if they didn't make any money out of it, which they obviously have, but they wouldn't care. They just love what they do, and they love the game, and they play it, and they want it to be phenomenal, and they know everything about it. And certainly Jonathan is so happy to just talk. He'll talk forever about like whether a mob should have a shield on it. How should that work? Should we go here and here with it? How are we going to do X and Y with it? All these elements. They love it. They're absolute game nerds. But it doesn't mean that we 100% agree on things. And that's the joy of good discussion, right? When you can disagree on things. So initially, when I did some of the early playtesting, either at Exile Con, or I had to go to LA and do some testing there with them, there was various feedback. Because one of the biggest gripes I have with Path of Exile is the respec system. They have a glorious, glorious passive tree in both of the games, intimidating to many. but they ramp up and sort of make respecking fully a hindrance later on. Certainly if you're not seasoned enough to have followed a build guide, therefore you didn't need any scouring orbs or waste gold on respecking or whichever game you're playing to try out different things. And as a new player who was not sure what I like in this game, I have no idea. But I've leveled up a character. I've got a character there. Maybe I just want to try out, if I go two-hander, maybe I want to try out one-hander and shield. But maybe I don't like it. Maybe I want to swap back, but I just want to try it out. And they made that a hindrance. It's a little easier in PoE 2 with the gold, although it does get problematic later. I've respect a lot, but they're still sticking by that. And it always bothers me because it just leans more people to use Path of Building or build guides, so they're getting around it by respecking within Path of Building, but they're not getting to play it. They're not getting to have fun. They're trusting a video or a content creator to tell them that it's good, or a friend, or word of mouth, or whatever, to tell them it's good. I still think that should roll back. The other one that really bothered me playing through this campaign with PoE 2, two big issues with PoE 2, looking at it from the perspective of someone who does not have 30,000, 15,000 hours into Path of Exile. The maps are too big. Like, the PoE 2 maps are just obnoxious. They're very obnoxious. I can't say I enjoy nearly any of them, really. They're very, very large. And that scale just becomes a problem when you're looking for a couple of things. And they have a lot, because of the way it's got to be designed. The actual things you want to find in several occasions are actually just tiny, tiny paths, offshoots of these giant maps. And you can walk really close to it and not see it because it just follows the contour of the edge of the map or whatever. And instead of hugging the exact edge with all the way around these enormous maps, you could just miss it. And there's no indication that it's there that at least I can see. There's no checkpoint nearby, something like that. And the maps re-roll themselves in a pretty extreme way, more than PoE 1. Like, in PoE 1, even though I wasn't used to seeing the road signs, and this road forks this way, meaning the path he wants to go is down there. One thing I could always do in PoE is that in PoE 1 is actually kind of look at the map, like the world map, and kind of get an idea of the general place it should be. In PoE 2, my game crashed, and when I went back in, the entire map had, like, reorientated itself. Like, it was a totally different layout in a different location where I was supposed to be going. I was like, oh my god. I knew where I wanted to go was, like, over here, but it actually went the other way. And also, it leads to, when you're backtracking, there's just nothing in the map. Like, if you cleared an area, and you might have been clearing it for quite a while, and you're like, where's the place? I've got to go back. There's just nothing there, and you're running for ages. Like, absolutely ages to get to these places. It's very frustrating. Interlude 1, I think, Visteri Desert, was one people were particularly noting about. This is not including even the maze-style maps. The mazes, the Matlan Waterways, it's such a drag. Just the same. It all looks the same. That's the problem. They're very large, and they all look the same. But they don't need to be that way. I think they could do with shrinking those down, or breaking them even into multiple zones, something like that, to just make it a little bit more welcoming. Is what I would say. The other one is, I think as much as I hate to say this because people get angry about it, and I don't know why, I think the second lab, we'll call it, or the Trialmasters, the Chaos lab to ascend, I think that needs to either dramatically change or be reduced in some way. It's not for the placement of it in the campaign, and I know a lot of people go, just level past it and then come back. Here's the thing with that. I understand what you're saying. It's such an enormous, inconvenient, miserable experience that's just right in the middle of something that should be fun. This is early campaign. Ascending is kind of cool. Like, especially, you might be used to it if you've played all those hours. I'm several hundred hours in, and I still enjoy ascending, right? Even though we've got 2 more to do. It's a very big moment. It's like you're going to go and ascend, and you get excited for it and you want to do it. And not only that, the game presents the option there for you to go and do it, along with other things. The Trialmaster one is just, there's nothing fun about it. And that's what bothers me. There's nothing fun about it at all, in any way. It's all inconvenient buffs. So Kiss Curse buffs might be more interesting to start with, right? If you want to keep it there, consider some Kiss Curse buffs. So yes, you're taking blood globules or ground slam, or you're always going to be poisoned and bled or something like that. But also it's going to do something beneficial to you to make it more fun, a little bit more interesting. Because here's my issue with it. Very easy to get to the boss. However, you don't really have good opportunities to learn what the boss does. And the boss hurts, like, in a lot of ways. The boss can kill you very, very rapidly. Far quicker than, and my point is, far quicker than anything else in the campaign at that time. It will destroy you. And you're also now dealing with a boss that you've never seen before for a lot of people that can kill you extremely quickly, so you don't get to really learn much, while also contending with a huge amount of, or potentially quite a few very inconvenient debuffs that you've picked up along your way to get there. Ultimately, it's just a frustrating, miserable experience. I generally know what the hell I'm doing, but I picked up the Shade. If you get 7 stacks, then it kills you, right? But my entire gameplay of my character is to kind of lock in for a little minute and do this DPS combo. That's what the whole spec is about. But you can't do that, unfortunately. So you end up running around and sort of half-arsing it, kiting this thing left and right, doing things. Or the room fills up. You end up fighting the bird, or whatever it's called, in on a circular platform, which is about as big as the ground effect that you spawn. So you've got to either run out and drop it on an edge so you can only fight on the left side, which may be filled with like tornadoes and things like that. It's needless to say, I can go on about this. I personally think it's just not a fun experience. I can't think of a positive. I really can't. And I think that should change. I think it's better that the later ones get more difficult. Sure. I think that's okay because you're getting to the finale. This is the last time you would quote unquote have to do it. The mid-campaign one, I disagree. I know Jonathan likes a challenge. Like, one of the things we butted heads on is, like, should the first boss or the first mini-boss of the game kill you? It's a really nuanced question. What does that mean? What is my gaming experience, right? If I'm a seasoned gamer, right? If I'm a pretty seasoned gamer, I've got a few years under my belt, I've killed quite a few bosses in a variety of games, then no, I don't think it should be able to kill you. Because I would imagine it's my instincts are that's overtuned. If it can kill somebody who knows what they're doing and has a reasonably good grasp of what's going on, and I'm not talking about like one-shot you. I'm talking about it should wear you down, fatigue you, have a chance to kill you. Of course, if you screw up, it should kill you. Duh. But should it be designed in a way that it's going to kill you until you go through some relatively steep learning metric? I disagree with for the very first mini-boss. You want to get going. You want people to stick around with your game. If you're new to the game and you've never played a video game before, well, yeah, it probably should kill you. That's what, there's more nuance to it than that. I just feel that if I was trying to get into PoE 2, because I see PoE 2 as a door opening for a lot of people who missed the boat on PoE 1, and by the time they either became aware of it or wanted to try it, that game was so monstrously large and had so many layers to that onion that they couldn't get into it, right? Or they felt intimidated, which is a common theme with PoE. And so PoE 2 is that fresh chance, right? Seasoned players are going to obviously blast through it like they are doing. But for other people, it's like, this, I can start with PoE 2. This is a fresh start. Things have changed. I can get into it now and look at it. And I really do feel like that Trialmaster's Chaos Lab is going to be a stop for a lot of players. Because they're going to have it in their quest log. They've got access to it. And it arrives at a point where you can kill everything else. And while some players will just be like, okay, I'll go on to the next act and then come back and do it. Other players are going to be like, what is this? This is literally what the game is telling me to do. And I've done everything else. And this is still very hard. So those are my two real issues campaign-wise, other than, having to redo the campaign every time you want a new character. I'd love to see your thoughts on this. I know for some of you, it'll be like, get good, you can kill it. I did. I did do that. But it was a noticeable, enormous leap from everything else that is occurring at the same time within the game. And I don't think that kind of fractured design is a benefit to the wide amount of players, especially for something that's early campaign. It has no effect on late game at all. What was he to say? I can't wait to get to maps and start messing around with that. I've heard some interesting things, so we'll see how that goes. All right, bye guys.